Hi, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. It's a late night job again. We had a big day today, mainly spent at the hospital, both in Talabon and in Ubay. And the reason for that is that what started off as a very simple, quick call video that we intended to do when we were dropping off some vitamins for our little girl that we help. Courtesy, not us. We're just the delivery boys, aren't we? We take down vitamins and stuff like that, maybe milk and extra things that we can buy for baby Jane. Now, for those who don't know anything about baby Jane, whatever happened to baby Jane? That was the title that I first thought up for baby Jane. Her name is actually Jenilyn, and she suffers, I learned this, by the way, from one of our subscribers. Baby Jane, her bones break easily, and somebody said, well, what she has is Osteogenesis Imperfecta, and that is the malady of having bones that are so brittle that they break very easily. So a kid in the normal course of just play can easily break a bone. It's a terrible thing for a kid because they are unable to play to the same degree that other kids play. And that brings us really to the subject of this update on baby Jane. Now, you will have seen, probably, if I know that this video is going to be placed after the updates of our adventures today, where we went through the mill on trying to get treatment for baby Jane. When you talk about bringing help to people in a country like the Philippines, I'm taking it that it's very similar to other cultures where the education level on things that we take for granted, I'm not talking about reading and writing and geography and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what the culture says to do. Now, even my mother lived in a relatively modern world, and she was quite archaic in some of her beliefs. She would never encourage wearing the clothes of someone who had died. Just didn't do that. I think the syndrome was called dead men's shoes. Don't step into dead men's shoes. Well, that began to have many different meanings, didn't it? But dead men's shoes, I think, was derived from the idea that no matter how good a guy's shoes are, don't step into them after he's died, because you might end up walking in the same path. But anyway, I've digressed, as I usually do. What happened today was that we set out just to deliver, courtesy of our friend and subscriber, Patch, man with a big heart, who supports baby Jane every month by sending money which we can use to buy vitamins, make sure she gets calcium, vitamin D, all of those things that she needs, and we make sure that she gets those. Now, of course, there's a multiple benefit for this, for that family, because he's not just supporting baby Jane, because Filipinos share, and so anything that goes into baby Jane's house is shared by her siblings. So if it's good for baby Jane, it'll be good for her sisters. So what happened today? Well, I always say when we go out of our house, the only thing I can control in a video is right now. I can control, to a certain extent, as long as the dogs bark, as long as the dogs don't bark and Nanai doesn't machine gun somebody, or the chickens don't start clucking, I can pretty well predict and control what happens in a video. When we go out, I can't do that. Beth and I cannot do that, because we really don't know what's going to happen. Well, today we actually said that. Don't know what's going to happen when we go to see Baby Jane. We had heard something about Baby Jane getting hurt that we really were hoping against hope that it was not true. The mother met us outside and she said that Baby Jane had an accident falling while she was using a skipping rope. Now, as luck would have it, one of the gifts that we received, that we gave out, were skipping ropes, and we gave them out to that little community. We never gave a thought to the fact that Baby Jane was in that little tiny community. Well, of course, she's a kid. She has the normal hopes, dreams, envies. She sees other kids playing with that skipping rope, and boy, does it look good. And that's what she did. So she had a go, and she fell and she broke her leg. Now, the family apparently didn't realize that it was as serious as it was. Now, I dread to think of the pain that that little girl went through when she was taken to what some Filipinos call a faith healer. Now, this is not the true, it's not the true definition of a faith healer. This is often someone who may well be a seer, but they're more a hands-on manipulating or adjusting. When I broke my collarbone, I went to 2 different faith healers and had my collarbone and that area had that therapy. I had physical therapy on that, and it actually did help. But then there's not much you can do with a broken collarbone. Well, there is a lot that you can do with a broken leg. Now, when I looked at that little girl, I could see that the way that the leg was hanging, that there was an out of a straight line move to it, and I knew that it was a broken leg. The deceptive thing about it was that the child is an incredibly brave little girl, and she's not whining and complaining or crying. She's not grizzling, all of those things which I've seen other kids with a little scratch on the leg go into moaning and groaning and for a long time, until I'm in the end I've said, "Hey, stop!" Well, Baby Jane didn't do that. And even when I asked her, I said, "Beth, ask her, is she in pain?" And she said no. Well, the mother, in her ignorance, has taken the treatment which is available to her, okay? Now, why am I making this video? Because in the video that you will see something which is a Filipino mechanism of behavior in which they laugh, and they laugh for a multiple of reasons, lots of different reasons, and one of them is embarrassment. When they're embarrassed about something, the average Filipina will laugh, and they'll put their hands to their mouth and they'll laugh. They're not laughing because something that someone has said, either them or you or anybody, is funny. That's not the reason that they're laughing. They're laughing because it's a moment of intense embarrassment. So I really want to make a point and say that if anybody is out there and they're looking at the videos of what happened, because there are several videos, one I think has been uploaded, and there are probably 2 or 3 which follow up right to the end of our day to day, and it's not an easy thing to watch. A lot of waiting, a lot of arguing, it seems, for the good of a child that should never need any argument, but We're in a different culture. It's the same planet, a different world. If you're at home and you're in your nice house and outside you've got a really nice car, alright, you might be still paying for it and you might have a mortgage that hits you like a hurricane every month, but you have those things. You have a hospital down the road, you have a doctor up the road, you have Home Depot, you have Wix, you have all of these things, and they're all easily available to you. You can buy any tool, you can buy any clothes, you can buy almost anything. A lot of it might be made in China, okay, but let's not go into that. So you've got all of these things and you don't realize how you take them for granted, but you do. And they're not available out here. These things are not available. Well, we had to argue to get baby Jane into the truck, and you will hear me say in one, I've actually got baby Jane. All I did was I kept saying where it should go. She has to go to hospital today, now. There'd be some more talk, and I would say she has to go to hospital now. She has to go to hospital now. She has to go to hospital, to the hospital, and she has to do that now. And then you'll hear me do a bit of begging. Please, let me take her to hospital. Now, it's a Filipino traditional that if anybody goes to hospital, there has to be somebody there to accompany them. And in the case of a child, it is realistic. Normally, any child would be okay, and then you get them into the car to take them there, anywhere, and then they would act up. And then they would get upset, and then they would want their mom, and then you'd have to take them home. So that's what would happen. And we saw this once in Dubai when one little girl who actually coincidentally looked amazingly like baby Jane, who is in Bogus. So it made a lot of sense. She said, there's no one can accompany her. There's no one, I can't leave, and there's no one can accompany her. Now, you and I would not see that as a reason, as I didn't. Now, baby Jane, for some reason, is very comfortable with me. She comes and sits with me when I'm at church. If I'm sitting down, she'll come and suddenly she'll appear, and there she'll be, and the next thing she'll be a little bit closer, and then the next thing she's pressed up against me, and I'm holding her till we get up and do something else. And it's just one of those things. She's just, I don't know, somehow got imprinted with me as someone that she feels safe with. So my argument was, let me take her. Let me take her. She has to go. And you'll hear me say this many times. And you'll hear the mother laughing, and she'll be in embarrassment. And I'll keep saying to Beth, what is she saying? Now, the little girl's, baby Jane's, her leg is obviously not right. I think you can see it. Well, as soon as I held her leg and even moved it slightly, I could feel that there was a break. And I suspected, though I didn't say it at the time, I suspected that it was a compound fracture. So it was imperative that we had to get baby Jane to hospital. At that point, even if they brought out a gun, she would still have gone to hospital. So the mother protested, well, she hasn't got the right clothes on. I said, it doesn't matter. And I picked baby Jane up. Now, at that point, we broke through the resistance for baby Jane to stay there, because now I was holding her in my arms and we were heading out the door. And Beth started saying, well, she's going to get the grandmother. And I said, get in the truck. You'll hear me say, Beth, get in the truck. And she said, but so-and-so, and then she said something else, and I said, hon, get in the truck. Because I knew that once baby Jane was in the truck, she was going, and we'd done what we needed to do to get that little girl some help. And that's what I was saying. Now, so you'll see all of this in the video. What I wanted to say was, I don't want to see any nasty name-calling, Filipinos this, Filipinos that. I don't want to see any of that on... I've never said this, really, so openly, but I don't want to see any of that about the mom. The mom is doing what she is conditioned by her upbringing to do, and that's what she is doing. She is resigned to the child always having this problem because it runs in the family and it is inherited. So she wouldn't let us put baby Jane through a lot of different treatment when she thought that it was incurable. And that's at the root of what her behavior was. Please don't look at it and say, oh, she thinks this is funny. No, she doesn't. She's extremely embarrassed. She feels extremely guilty because me and my big mouth, I said to her, if this was your leg, would you have called us? Sometimes I need to get my brain in gear before I put my mouth in motion. Anyway, so please be cool on your judgment of this lady and of life in the Philippines, where there is so little that's on offer that you take for granted. And I've gone on far too long. Beth asked me if I could keep my videos down to 10 minutes. Oh boy. When you waffle as much as I do, that's a very, very difficult challenge. So please forgive me if I've waffled too much. But remember what I said, because if I get any really nasty, pointless remarks, comments, which really don't help, I'll block you. Okay? This is a foreigner in the Philippines. The end result is that baby Jane has now been treated and she has her leg in a cast and it's safe. That's the good news. Bye for now.